You shifted him.
I'm always shifting him. You've never remarked on it before, even when I put him in your bedroom.
Well, why not face the fact that he's been all over the house now and shift him right out of it?
No, he goes with the decor.
Decor? That's a very French word to use for bits and pieces that look as though they come out of a junk shop in Peking. What are you going to have to drink? Some of that Yugoslav nonsense?
Yes.
Rakia. It's not a drink. It's a fumigation. No wonder you only have one a night. Is this part of it as well? This? Part of the decor? And if so, for how long? Hell's teeth. 8 inches left out of 12. 15 clinking minutes.
It can't go with the decor, it's Japanese. Koto music.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, might we not have it?
As I suppose we might not. Can you think of anything we might have in its stead?
Yes.
Oh, what?
A quiet evening.
That's the M27. We'll have that day and night now until they've knocked the village down and replaced it with a polygonally foliated cloverleaf. Apparently modelled on the Hampton Court maze.
It's almost a mile away.
Depending on the wind. Aren't you sorry you didn't do as Caswell Bligh told you to? Then you might have landed the project and might now be in a position to stop it. Where would you like quietly to dine, the cellar or the coal bunker?
If it's a choice between Koto and excavators, I'll spend the night in town.
Well, remember to check the weather forecast before you call again. Westerly gales are good, variable gusts are murder.
It's early, we can get up and you can dine wherever you please. The drive will make us hungry.
I didn't realize I was being invited too.
One does not invite one's wife. One assumes that she'll come. Oh, of course, if you've got something on down here in the morning.
No, as a matter of fact, I've got something on up there, so it'll be quite convenient. Much worse for Don Henderson, you know.
What is?
Wind or no wind, he lives so close to what's going to be the over-under bypass that he's left not with a view, but a motel. So he's house hunting. Didn't he tell you?
Why do you still run yourself around? As a director of Bligh's, you should be driven.
Yes, well, it'd spoil my unspoiled image.
I'm thinking of the firm's image, Bligh's.
As chairman of the National Export Board, Caswell, you're not supposed to think of Bligh's or of any other commercial interest. In fact, as a government appointee, you're not supposed to have any commercial interest at all. You really meant breakfast.
Fashionable time to meet these days, isn't it?
In fashionable places. Is this one?
Eat up, the coffee's for you.
Can't eat up. I've been eating all night in view of sleeping. I've got all this on my doorstep.
So you should have. It's your field. To a civil engineer, tumult is music. I could pick up a whisper from a man working a cement mixer 20 yards away with Wild driving a bulldozer.
Yeah, well, I'm not a civil engineer. I sell whatever according to contract, that's all. And to sell civil engineering projects, I don't need brass eardrums.
You need eyes to see what's under your nose. Or as John Wilder ordered you to take no notice.
Caswell, before you tucked yourself safely away on the National Export Board, it wasn't only John who blocked you on this roadway, but your son. And look what they landed instead. A dam in Venezuela and an irrigation complex in Africa.
Thank God there wasn't an ice works in Greenland. Don, what do you think is going on out there?
Hmm? What do you mean? All I can see is Strakers turning Berkshire into Oxfordshire.
Forget about Berkshire turning into Oxfordshire. Think of Oxfordshire turning into America. Because the Americans may be back now, not only to the bases they have, but to the more modern ones they'll need to replace those they may lose in France.
Well, John went into all that while he was special envoy in Brussels. Oh, the Americans might be coming back, but they're not going to give dollars to the natives. They may use their own people.
Not on the motorways. Motorways, of a military origin, are national assets. They are also, Don, still one of my legitimate interests. I'm chairman of the National Motorways Council too, you know, and that's a non-profit-making body.
Oh. Well, I should imagine that the Motorways Council has as much hope as the government, whichever party's in power, of convincing the electorate that he wants to pay to be occupied by the Americans.
The Americans know that. Tenders will be invited from British civil engineers, and only British, for a NATO contract. Of course, it won't be for motorways, but for what the Pentagon likes to call a communications complex to integrate logistics. Of course, that mightn't shut up the electorate, but it will shut up the government. How is Bly's placed for that, Don? I'm duty-bound to keep out of touch, as you said.
How would we be placed? How soon?
Now, look around you. This project was to go through open country 6 miles away next spring. Now it's going through already, and they've shifted it here, because from here you can spin off 3 ways. One stabbing right through the country to Norfolk on the coast. You'll find reports when you get to the office.
From you?
From the National Motorways Council, advising British civil engineering firms not to overcommit themselves at all.
As chairman of the Export Board, Caswell, how do you square that?
Exported goods are travelling goods. Britain today is stifled by an out-of-date transport system. Every national vision must take this into account first.
Perhaps. Does it also have to take into account that the firm that you founded and which bears your name should have first bite of the cherry?
I have no position in Bly's now.
No, but your son has. Ken is joint managing director with John Wilder, no less.
At present, my son Kenneth, joint managing director or not, is behaving like a minor, urgently in need of care and attention. You agree?
In what sense?
In the sense that he has let John Wilder hoodwink him from seeing where the real interests of Bly's and the country are. Here, not Greece.
I thought you'd be against the Greek project. Anyway, we haven't got it yet.
I trust that we shan't. I trust that you will see to it that we shan't. Because we can't do that and this at the same time.
Yes, but I'm only a junior director, Caswell. A button. John can push, Ken can. But you're not even allowed into the boardroom.
Excepting yourself, every member of that board is nominated by me. I know how it would split on any question, and on this one it'll split right down the middle, with you, the only unknown quantity, having the casting vote.
I was nominated by John. What makes you think that I'm an unknown quantity?
Sooner or later, John is going to push out Ken, or Ken is going to push out John. Now, neither will make you joint managing director. But I would, if John was the one who went.
Well, I can only repeat, Caswell. You're not even allowed into the boardroom.
Ask yourselves then why you came to breakfast this morning. Have you heard from Ken?
Only that he'll be back today. And that it's all gone very well.
Yes, quite well. He'll return with the Greek sewn up, but for 2 stitches. The formality of presenting a proper tender, and the factor that you can play with. The human factor. Or if you like, the red rag to the bull we call Sir John Wilder. Mr. Haggadan.
Who?
Haggadan.
Well, why shouldn't I look?
Well, because he hasn't seen us. He obviously got on from the second bus. He's about 8 seats behind you.
Lou is about 25 seats behind. It's 4 hours to London.
But Haggadan's my snag of the moment. Now, let's not
tangle with it until I know how to deal with it.
Your snag of the moment, darling, is my reluctance to play hide-and-seek with a man who's never been to bed with me, however much he might have with Pamela Wilder.
Hey, Justine. Look, this is the advanced specification for a NATO contract to construct harbour facilities. Now, the Greeks doubted our suitability in only one respect, underwater excavations. And they made it clear that we could be sure of having our tender accepted only if we went into a consortium with infels who've specialised in that sort of thing. Well, you know who runs Infel's overseas projects now. He does.
Question. Will John Wilder consort to the man who's done so with his wife? If it means $1 million, I'd say certainly.
Oh, even so, before I present the bill, I'd like to sugarcoat it.
Why?
What?
Why sugarcoat it? If John Wilder blocked this contract for personal reasons, you could have him thrown out. And our ship would really be home then.
No, it wouldn't. We're sailing up a motorway in the wilds of Oxfordshire, with father operating the helm by remote control. And my whole European policy is sunk for good.
From Mr. Haggerton. And may he join you?
Yes, of course. Oh, sorry, I'll do that.
Thank you.
No, let's finish mine first. Justine? Don't get up, Ken.
Do you take a bubble bath every morning?
Only when I've something to celebrate.
In the harbour? It's not quite ours yet, is it?
Ours?
We'll see. In London.
In other words, Frank, not in front of the ladies. Nice. Have some with me this afternoon.
Where?
Small but comfortable penthouse in Blackheath. Don Henderson's house huntings, I'm showing it to you. Drinks at 5?
I'm tied up at 5.
With John Wilder. With Don Henderson, isn't it? Are you?
Is it your proposition that while Ken sounds John out about me on the business level, I should sound Henderson out about John on the personal?
No. Just that you should take this chance to assure Don that no personal question remains.
You'd tell him I'd be coming?
No. I think he mightn't come himself if I did that.
I can't imagine Henderson discussing Pamela with me in front of you in any case.
Neither can I.
For which reason, I shall probably be too tired after the flight to come up from Maidenhead myself. So would you let him in and give him my apologies?
Oh, were you buzzing me earlier?
An hour ago.
Yes, well, maybe a minute to do, John, but the chairman's after me, too.
When I made you a director, it wasn't to dust figureheads. Sit down. I got this when I came in this morning. A cable from Stockholm sent last night. It reads, arriving London, AM, staying Beverly Towers. Hope you will receive me urgentest. Copy to K. Bly, signed Simpson of Halvins.
Yes, Ken showed me his copy. His secretary had it at the airport. He told her to make an appointment for 3 o'clock this afternoon.
He's got an appointment with me himself at 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Yes, but he thought that you could receive Simpson with him first. Halvins are the Scandinavian crowd, of course. As they specialise in underwater excavations, I suppose they've told Simpson to go for a piece of the Greek contract, if you've any to spare.
Simpson being who?
Well, Halvin's representative, obviously.
I've gathered that, but that's all so far. Would you call that a comprehensive description?
Look, John, like yourself as it seems, I've never heard of the man. The only Simpson I can recall is or was English. Industrial consultant or some such mystery. Unqualified, if I remember.
If?
Yes, John, if. Look, I've never heard of the man, but I read about him coming unstuck 5 or 6 years ago.
Industrial consultant in what? Civil engineering?
No, apparently everything in general and nothing in practice. So he went bankrupt. Less logically, he continued to slide from one Mediterranean villa to another until the tax man put the...
Hardly sounds like a Halvins man, does it? Can you recall any Simpson who might?
No. But whoever Halvin Simpson is, Ken seemed to know all about him. He'll fill you in before you meet the man, surely.
Not if he can see any advantage in dealing intimately with someone while that someone remains an unknown quantity to me. That's what the Blys specialise in, unknown quantities, father and son. Well, dig out what you can. Brief me after lunch. You'd better sit in with Kenneth and me this afternoon.
What do you mean just for Simpson or for the whole session?
The session, whole or part. depending on how cocky young Ken is.
But I thought you and he were equally keen on this contract, for once.
We are, but not necessarily in the same way. If he wants to push through consortiums with people he knows and I don't, I want you to start sprouting instant technical objections. Yes?
Switchboard here. I can't find your secretary, Sir John, but Lady Wilder's on the telephone.
Oh, put her through, will you? Hello, Pamela. John here. The man's out. Yes, I can well understand you're wanting to be amused. I'm a fugitive, too. Yes, I'd love to take you out, but you see, he wants me to referee a bit of bare knuckle against Ken, and God knows when that'll finish. Sorry, Pamela. Oh, look, Pamela, it's all very indefinite, but if there's no fight, I might just be able to meet you at 5 for drinks. No, at a flat that Jaysten's showing me. If I can't make it, you could tell her why. I mean, it's a bit difficult for me to if I'm tied up here while she's driving up from Maidenhead, incommunicado. I tell you what, Pamela, I empower you to say whether I'll lease the flat or not. That should deadlock things on the social front. I'll give you the address. Wait a minute.
I'm afraid you'll have to drink most of this. I need the clearest of heads this afternoon, whereas you, it being Saturday, don't need one at all.
It's not because Pamela's in town, then, that we're eating in. It's just that you're busy, is it?
Intensively.
As intensively as last Saturday, when Pamela wasn't in town and we ate at Cardinal's, although you only had 20 minutes. Don't hit the ceiling.
Oh.
Marvellous. Whoops.
Pamela will be remaining in town till the M27 moves on. I could, if I wished to, think about, inquire about, or simply stumble upon one of several thousand restaurants where she's not likely to see me, if I wish to behave like a furtive husband having his first affair.
Well, to me, you're behaving like a settled one having his last.
Well, I hope it is my last, and the most extensive.
Come on. I'll hold you twist, as usual.
Have you ever heard of a man called Simpson with Halvins?
Yes. Should I thank him for seeing you at all today? Would you otherwise have telephoned regrets and had the oysters in your office?
If all I wanted was information, I could have telephoned you for that, couldn't I?
Ah, depending on how much I shouldn't give you that information.
You're a civil servant on the National Export Board. I am a member of that board. I have every right to ask you for information at the board, in a public restaurant, or here. And you, although I don't insist on the fact, have a duty to give it.
Halvins are Scandinavian. Well, surely that's common knowledge, discoverable from any trade directory, as is the fact that they're not really competitors of yours, being specialists and usually contracting under consortium.
I was asking about Simpson.
Why, he only married his way in recently.
How recently?
Oh, only a few weeks.
Well, that's all I'm asking, then. Should it amaze anybody on the National Export Board that I should ask you that, or anyone else, sir?
I don't think anyone else could have told you. It's just that I'm not merely a civil servant. I'm a woman's civil servant, so I pore over foreign glossy magazines. He is 36. The bride is 47. She's a third or fourth sister to the chairman of Halvins. If you'd seen a picture of the bride, you'd understand why the family raised no objections. Simpson was probably the first taker.
Objections? On what grounds?
Simpson's English, latterly bankrupt. Perhaps they didn't have time to check. The marriage took place on the Riviera.
Was he ever an industrial consultant?
Oh, something like that. The exact euphemism escapes me. Why, John? What state secret have I unwittingly exposed now?
None. You've merely exposed a set of commercial mysteries. Ken wants this Simpson to go into a consortium with us.
Well, Halvins themselves are all right. They're small.
Halvins might be, but Simpson obviously never has been.
Well, then why'd Ken want him?
I don't know. We all have our self-preservative reflexes, and one of mine is, if I don't know why Kenneth wants something and I haven't time to find out, I simply don't let him have it.
Hello? Alone?
I was. Oh, it's not 3 o'clock yet, surely.
Yeah, wait 5 minutes. What did John say about Simpson?
Ken, the chairman's running a late start of a money's agenda and wants comprehensive annotations on it from me today. If you get a look into your office, you'll find the material that sparked it all. Or you can fill in your waiting time on it here.
Well, what's all that to do with Simpson?
Nothing. That's all he has to do with this. Which I'd like to get on with. Time to look at a flat with your wife at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I don't know that I should make it easy for you to look at a flat with my or anybody else's wife. At the airport, Simpson plainly meant nothing to you. What has he come to mean since?
Since what?
Since you gave John my message that we'd have the man in together at 3. Well, what did John say?
John said, all right.
He didn't fill you in, as he usually does, about why it should be all right.
No, Ken. Not one word. So help me.
Oh, I would, Don. If you'd induce me to. I might even help you into John's own chair if the chance arose. And you, so to speak, arose it.
I got the impression at the airport that you knew all about Simpson yourself.
Oh, I do. What I don't know is what John said to you about him.
Yes, John. Oh, Ken's here, by the way.
Would you both like to come in now?
Ken's here, by the way, mastermind, so be careful what you say. Thanks, Don. Most informative.
Hello, Ken.
John. The flight was smooth, thank you.
I regard you as so experienced a traveller that I thought you might have wondered what I was talking about if I asked. The Greek data.
Well, rather more. Virtually the contract.
Delivered in person. You must be very proud of it.
Specifications to be met. Rundown on competitors' finance and time prospects in light of specifications. Tendering tips, you'll find it charming reading. Is Don sitting in with us?
Not if you object.
I'm glad of the audience if it'd attend. Biggest, but nothing to worry about. Technical details which compel us to agree to a consortium. We'll only need to give away a nibble, and the Greeks have picked and sounded the people they want themselves, making negotiations a formality.
Yes, well, Simpson's waiting. Let's get the wag in and have that over and done with. Miss Lingard?
Yes, Sir John.
Would you tell Mr. Simpson that I will see him now?
Wag, John?
What?
Is that what you think of him?
Well, what do you, Kenneth?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
This is Mr. Kenneth Bly.
Yes, I know.
Hello, Basil. Sir John and Mr. Henderson, do sit down.
Well, no. Flew by night from Stockholm. Always makes me restless, stiff. I don't mind, do you?
Well, I don't know why, but I thought you would have flown in from Athens.
Ah, yes, indeed. We had a man there, I can imagine. But English consortium's my pigeon. He cabled the glad news, and I, took over.
What glad news, Mr. Simpson?
Well, you know how it is. All Greeks have a word not only for things, but for things before they should be had a word for. But I really thought... But I feel sure you have, haven't you?
Yes. Yes, let's not beat about. I've told Sir John a consortium will be necessary.
Ah, fine. Yes, well, there it is. Halvins are agreeable. I'm sure we could come to terms, mutually, profitably.
You've brought some with you?
Yes, indeed. Bit rushed, you know. The technicians sat up. They sat up and produced the, bases.
Have they covered the jigging problem?
Sorry?
The underflow wraps for the costellated standings.
Oh, yes. Though we use different terms in Sweden, of course. Or at least the Swedes do, but I'm sure it'll all translate.
If there were such things as underflow wraps for costellated standings in any language, I'd be sure they translate too.
Well, I'm not a technician, as you know.
You weren't an industrial consultant, and you didn't know. You might still be bankrupt, but I don't care. Good afternoon.
Sorry, Basil. Sir John and I are joint managing directors. Half the team wouldn't do the trick, not on this one.
Yes, well, ever you come unstuck, old man, I do hope there'll be a costellated standing near to hand, you know, for clinging onto.
Perhaps I should apologize. Oh, not for bouncing him, but for bouncing him in front of you. A personal acquaintance.
But you save me the personal embarrassment. The Greeks aren't enthusiastic about him either. That is about Halbans. Not if they can get us to take the other crowd.
What other crowd?
Oh, it's in there. With their balance sheet, past and predicted, construction record, personnel breakdown and present commitments, pages 11 to 20. I have it they're willing. And now you've eliminated the Swedes as no alternative. Matter of specialists and availability.
From whom did you have it at Infels that they're willing? Haggerdan himself.
Can I get you a drink?
Is Don here?
Not yet. Only I am.
I didn't mean that.
Mean what?
That I'd come in only if we were alone. Good evening.
Pamela. I didn't expect you, and you clearly didn't expect me. I won't bite you, but whoever asked you to come apparently intends to bite one or both of us. Who was it? Brandy?
What?
Brandy. As before.
Is that what I used to drink before? Before what?
I've as much reason as you not to want to start anything again.
And even more hope not to?
All right. But who wanted to make the bed for us? Who asked you here?
Well, the natural answer would be Justine, but it wasn't. It was Don.
John?
Don. Don Henderson. Old Faithful himself. The final defector. How long do you think it'll be before John arrives? And by John, I mean John, the husband alerted.
Old Faithful didn't know I was coming.
Good. I like Old Faithful. And I like my husband, too.
It's good business for me if you do. And even more if he knows I accept it. That is, until I've got the business.
Where's Justine? Is she coming?
She won't be. Will Don be?
Be what? Coming here? I don't know. He only asked me to come in case he couldn't manage it.
Then don't drink a brandy. Just go. I'm here this afternoon solely to convince Henderson, and thus your husband, that I don't give a damn for you. Any more than you do for me.
Well, I don't mind you speaking for me, Frank, but I'm not at all sure I feel very flattered by the way you speak for yourself.
Good evening, Pamela. If Don comes, I'll tell him you rang to say you couldn't make it. Like Justine.
Evening.
Well, that's about it, John.
Hmm? Yes.
We've got to go into the board on Monday with a definite proposal, you know. Look at the tender date.
I know what the tender date is. I know tomorrow is Sunday. I'll confirm a tentative acceptance on Monday, 10:30 here.
Well, in that case, gentlemen, having sat here in absolute bloody silence the whole afternoon, may I now go and get on with my work?
What work?
All on your desk Monday morning, John. Chairman's late motion for the agenda. Annotated.
Well, I'm sorry you missed it, Don. It'll still be there next week.
Missed what?
A penthouse in Blackheath.
Oh, why didn't you mention it? Once I've got rid of Simpson, I didn't need you.
Well, it doesn't matter. Pamela's looking at it for me.
Well, it does matter, now we've got through all this. I can take her out to dinner. Have you got the phone number?
Nope. Might be in the book. Miss Lingard,
Yes?
would you get me a Mr. Charles Mermont, Blackheath number?
Is that Mr. Henderson?
Yes, but if you get the number, put it through here, will you please?
Thank you, Don. Yes?
Is Mr. Henderson there, Sir John?
If that's the Blackheath number, it's for me.
Oh. Well, Mr. Mermont is abroad, Sir John. Mr. Haggerdan is answering.
From where?
At Mr. Mermont's address.
Did he ask who was calling before he gave his name?
Yes, but I thought it was Mr. Henderson. Sir John?
Yes?
Do you want me to put Mr. Haggerdan through?
No. Hang up. In his ear.
I was just going to ring you. I didn't know when to expect you.
Well, it's thoughtful of you to be here, even so. How's the flat?
What?
Donald tells me you're looking at a flat for him.
Oh, yes. He might do well to take it.
What would you like to drink? Rakia?
No, thanks.
Had your ration, Donald might still be in the office.
Oh?
If you want to ring him about the flat. Where was it, by the way?
South and east.
Blackheath?
Well, yes, if that's where Blackheath is, I suppose so.
How did you stumble on it?
I didn't. Justine did.
What's Justine doing, looking for flats for Donald?
Well, she didn't put herself out over much.
Oh, coming up from Maidenhead after flying back from Greece. Isn't that over much?
Up from? After where?
Was she there to introduce him?
No. To whom, though?
Mr. Mermont.
Who's he?
Wasn't it a flat belonging to a Mr. Mermont?
I don't know whose flat it was. All Don gave me was the address.
Was the owner not there?
No. I expect that's why the flat is available. That's the usual reason, isn't it?
Owner absent, go-between absent. Beats me how you ever got in. Of course, the porter, I suppose, was portered.
Yes. It's a penthouse, really, top of a block.
Well, I've yet to hear of a penthouse in a different position. Hello, give me Mr. Henderson, would you please? Yes, yes, it is.
John, before you speak to Don...
Oh, Don, I've begun to have second thoughts about the Greek situation. I want to see you in my office at 10:15 on Monday. Yes, will you ring Kenneth and tell him there's likely to be a difference of opinion which should be settled between ourselves rather than in front of the board? Yes, at 10:15. Oh, just hang on a minute. Yes, before I speak to Don?
Nothing. Well, just that I may as well, since he's handy. Hello, Don? Yes, I did, but I think you'd better see the place for yourself. Well, I liked it, but then, of course, I'm a woman. Oh, I don't know. I don't recall looking at them. Yes, I know I am. Sorry. Bye, Don.
Didn't look at what?
The kitchen, the bathroom. Feather-brained of me, wasn't it? Don was just saying so.
Then what made you feel that he might do well to take it? The sitting room or the bedroom? If anybody rings, I shall be at the club for the weekend.
We certainly had a profitable breakfast. Did you get all this done last Saturday?
Well, it's not my motion, nor am I the seconder.
It's your annotation.
I annotate most motions.
Impartially?
Professionally.
But seldom with such palpable enthusiasm. Your procy of this council report turns official ease into prosody. I begin to wonder whether I should advance you here or take you with me into the government service.
Well, I'm not sure that I like string carrot every time we have breakfast.
Nevertheless, it's a thought, Don.
I'll give you another thought, Caswell. You're discussing this company's business in this company's offices. As a former member of that company, now no longer supposed to have any commercial interest in it, or in any other company, isn't that rather a dangerous action? What if John heard of it?
Excellent technique, Don. But it doesn't apply to me. As chairman of the export board, my job is to encourage the Greek project. And as chairman of the Motorways Council, my job is to encourage the Motorways Council. Either way, there's no pecuniary gain for me. So provided I don't barge into the boardroom and say which I want most, John can't act against me on anything anyone tells him, including you. What have you told him? Have you mentioned our breakfast?
I didn't go out of my way to mention it, or not to mention it.
Bad technique, Don. Do or don't. Never be caught in between. Oh. Come in, Ken. I think Don and I finished.
Who?
Yes, John?
Would you come in?
Ask him for 1 minute.
Oh, would you give me a minute, please, John?
Oh, yes, I heard.
Put this to him, Don, and put it to yourself. I want grease, and I want it the only way it can be got. That is with Haggadan.
Your father doesn't. With or without Haggadan.
Oh, never mind, Father. Don't make a meal of it, Father, whatever it is.
You don't know what's on the menu. It's not grease, and it's not my motorways. It's Wilder's skin.
Yes, because of Haggadan. But I want his skin my way. I mean, if he won't take Haggadan, I can have him thrown out for putting personal prejudice against commercial interest. But if I can make him take Haggadan, I can have him how I want him most. Against, but beaten.
You have developed, Ken. But you could still do the breakfast or two.
Breakfast?
Don will tell you one day. Oh, it seems we've had our minute.
First of all, Don, this. Why send that in to me?
It's on this morning's agenda.
So was the tea money demand for the cleaners. Your annotation to that ran just to one word. Refused.
I'm a capitalist.
55 pages. Eloquent, impassioned. The work of a man who might thought to be believing in a domestic motorway.
The director proposing that motion mentions 3 motorways.
Never mind about the proposer or the seconder. Mind about yourself. What's your vote?
I'll give it. At the board meeting.
And grease?
Question of hydraulics also. Either we drain a bit of Oxfordshire or a bit of grease. If Infelds come in with us, I shall be influenced in one direction. If not, in another.
By Infelds, you mean Haggadan?
Yes.
And by Oxfordshire, what do you mean?
I don't follow you.
Do you mean Oxfordshire or Caswell Bligh? I spent the weekend at the club. Billy Straker asked me what you and Caswell Bligh were doing on his M27 eating ham and eggs last Saturday at 8 a.m.
Having breakfast, obviously.
Not quite so obviously that if I hadn't been told, I wouldn't have found out.
If you're buzzing for Ken, he's probably still in my office.
Well, then go and get him. Don, did you know that Haggerdan was going to be at Blackheath?
No.
The believable answer would have been what or nothing. Anything but no.
He rang me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
He rang you when?
After you told me to get the Blackheath number. He rang back asking for me because that was the name given him by the switchboard. And that's all I can or intend to say.
Well, if you've got so much to hide, you'd better get Kenneth in.
I've nothing to hide, John. But what of you? If you won't do business with a man who no longer has any intention of interfering in your private life. Ken, would you come in?
Good morning. Oh, am I intruding?
I saw on the agenda for this morning, Kenneth, a motion supposedly set down by a director, at least reputedly so, about Oxfordshire and 3 motorways.
Oh, I'm against. Don't worry.
Don?
Well, my position depends on whether the Greek project is viable or not.
Don't use such damn silly words. If by viable you mean workable, then say it.
If by workable you mean viable, a word of equal syllables but fewer letters, then I mean workable.
What, to use your new language, might militate against its viability?
Do you want me to repeat it? In front of Ken?
I want...
John, I say careful because I want Greece as much as you do. Now, if it comes to Oxfordshire or Greece, the board's vote will depend on Don. And I think this is one occasion where you should accept his opinion to get your own through. If you don't, I will most certainly express to the board my contempt for the way in which you've let your feelings sway your judgment. But I shan't do it until after the vote is taken and the damage done. We are, after all, John, answerable to our shareholders, not to ourselves. And if we don't care to be, we should go.
Characteristic poppycock. If you buy a share in Bligh's, you take a risk. On me. What shareholder has ever heard of you? I want 2 things from you, Don. A vote against Oxfordshire and a vote against Infels.
Leaving what?
I want them both, here and now, before we go in. Without any shareholders in it. No explanations, no come on. Just from you to me.
Yes, sir?
Mr. Bligh speaking. My former office, the desk, I want it oiled before it's stored and then inspected regularly. Oh, and will you send me 15 copies of Mr. Henderson's annotation on the Motorways Council report? Send them to my private address.
Yes, Mr. Bligh.
Thank you, my dear.
Your new man's gone back to his old man.
What did you say? Henderson?
Mm-hmm. Against you, against me. Against himself if it comes to that. No motorway, no Haggerdan. A complete muck-up.
But then what, if Greece is gone, you mean you must have skinned Wilder?
No, he's skinned us.
Would you please go? Before the board meets, John wants me to finalize terms with someone.
What terms? Terms about what?
Greece. Mr. Simpson, would you come in, please?